Hello and welcome back to the A3 podcast. We've got a huge episode coming up this week. The fixture's just been released. My name is Alex Catalano and I am once again joined by Alex Miller.
Afternoon, gents. How are we both?
Not too shabby. And Alex Doherty.
Hello, everybody. Mammoth show.
Mammoth show.
It's a mammoth show. Gotta say, I'm not confident.
The 2019 fixture is out and I feel like it's a fixture. It's decent. Doc's got some issues with it.
It's a fixture.
No, it's just the one issue, Cat.
As to be expected, the Good Friday issue is the issue that he's got.
I tell you what, I'm actually so fired up about this.
We're not even joking anymore.
No.
There's fire in his voice.
We're laughing and here I am fired up. No, I'm so angry that the Dogs aren't getting another Good Friday game this year. And what's worse is it's been what's worse is it's been handed to a Victorian team that doesn't deserve it.
Oh,
and
the Bombers.
Sorry, how many games did you win last year?
I don't care how many games we won last year. The fact of the matter is, I reckon almost every Victorian team has a marquee game now, except us. And I'm even talking about St Kilda, who are worse than us.
Yeah, but
Carlton have the season opener.
St Kilda.
Hang on, what does St Kilda have?
They have the China game.
Oh yes. Oh, that's right.
And
Yep.
Carlton is so much worse. They get the season opener. I know they usually draw about 80,000, but they're garbage.
That's a great spectacle to watch.
And
Gee whiz.
I'll
Carlton Richmond's just a good tradition at this point. I like it.
I know it's traditional, and I know it brings in a huge crowd, but Carlton are rubbish. And I'll tell you what, Kat,
Because the Bulldogs are great, mate.
Yeah. I felt there to turn a profit.
yeah.
So
We had that Good Friday game 2 years ago. Drew in about 45,000.
It was a good crowd.
Close game, 3 points of final margin, and
can't live in the past, Doc. You can look to the future.
they should be building on that though. That's what I'm trying to get at here. And instead, they handed over to St Kilda, who are absolutely no good, and then they stunk it up on Good Friday.
They'll make the 8 this year.
Now they handed over to Essendon, who had 2 marquee games,
They'll make
and
the
they
8 as
stunk up on both of them as well.
Both those teams will make the 8.
They're not making the 8.
They will.
Oh, well. No, okay, maybe Essendon will make the 8, but not St Kilda.
I'd hope so. Look, it's probably, like I said before, we were talking off air before, it's a bit of a one-off because I think the AFL panicked a little bit that they got Brisbane on Easter Thursday, not Brisbane Collingwood on Easter Thursday.
Yes.
Then there's Anzac Day.
I think they'll draw a fair crowd, sorry.
Yeah, it'll get a
Collingwood,
decent
Brisbane.
one.
Oh, yeah, I reckon so. They had pretty good games this year.
They
They
did.
Collingwood and Brisbane.
What were the other fixtures? Sorry, Kat.
But then Anzac Day is the week after that.
Yes.
So they didn't want us to have too uneven of a break, I guess. So they popped us on Good Friday. But I did say, why did they not just put us against West Coast in the other game on Good Friday and let North and the Dogs have that little fixture of theirs? But
Yeah, but that's just something I don't understand. Like, what has the AFL got against the Western Bulldogs at the moment?
It's not a vendetta.
I swear it is.
I think it's just they're trying to switch it up each year. It's not like there's a fixed schedule for the
the game.
Good Friday game. Yeah.
But-
So maybe next year they might go back to it. But I think right now you may as well give as many teams the opportunity to have a game on that stage as you can and see what type of crowds you can attract.
I seriously hope so. But the thing is, though, we had, Collingwood and Essendon have been doing Anzac Day for about 20 years now.
Yes.
And what a great tradition it is.
Melbourne and
Fantastic.
Collingwood have had Queen's Birthday for countless years now. Richmond and Carlton have had the season opener now for so many years now. So why can't they just give North and the Bulldogs a few years to build on Good Friday?
Because they don't want to.
I just don't want to.
I know they don't want to. This is exactly what's pissing me off here.
Oh well. Unfortunately, life is a cruel mistress.
Yeah, it is a cruel
And the AFL is even crueler.
It is a cruel mistress.
Kills the cruel.
Particularly if you're supporting the Bulldogs.
Oh, God.
There were a lot of Friday night games for the Pies.
Yes.
Having a look over the fixture like we did, which is probably deserved. They were obviously made the grand final this year. Probably deserved.
Do you think it's also
get the
because
big
they didn't
games.
play as many this year? They only had a
Um,
couple of free-to-air games.
Yeah, look,
Towards
the
the back
AFL's
end
going
of
to
the
want. Yeah, they're going to want the Pies to get in. They want their TV ratings as
And they're
as
probably,
cynical as maybe it is.
Yeah.
they want their TV.
They are one of the more exciting teams to watch as well, I think, now. Collingwood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely earned all their prime time slots. They get 2 Thursday night games. You've said before they get 7 Friday night games. And they also have Anzac Day and Queen's Birthday. So I think, given that they made the grand final, and they play a very exciting brand of football.
They've earned it.
Yeah, they thoroughly deserved it.
Big club as well.
Pretty tough opening round here, opening month for the Collingwood. They play Geelong Friday night, Richmond Thursday night round 2, the Eagles round 3, but that's at the MCG. And it all caps off with a Friday night game against the Bulldogs.
Well, I guess that's the toughest game of the lot, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that is probably one of the toughest games you'll ever find on the fixture this year for next year.
I wanted to have a look at some of the teams that double up. Some of our boys, our teams. We had a look at them.
Yep.
Essendon, we've got a pretty tough one, I thought, which is probably fair. The AFL's probably expecting us to be challenging for finals this year. At least I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Swans twice, the Giants twice, Freo twice, Collingwood twice, and North Melbourne twice. And 4 of those teams will surely be challenging for the 8. So it's going to be.
I don't know about the Swans.
You don't reckon?
I
don't know.
think they'll be around there. Like, I know the list doesn't really scream like a finals contender, but they just always seem to find a way to get up there.
Yeah, they do.
I think if Buddy's fit and plays every game and trains more than 20 minutes a week, he can propel that team forward. But I think Hanbury's a big loss, even though he's not as influential as he used to be, because Kieran Jack's on the back end of his career. Jared McVeigh's still out there, and he's still a very capable player, but their better players are on the back end of their career. Like, I don't know what's going to happen when Heath Grundy retires.
Yeah.
And Nick Smith, and it's going to be a very different team.
They've got some old players in their really important positions.
Yeah, and they didn't really stack youth, though. Like, Thurlow's, 24, 25?
Yeah, he's not young.
Nick Newman left for nothing. We're big on him, Cat.
Yes.
Doc doesn't like him at all.
No,
He's not playing for the Dogs, probably. Who else have they got? They didn't bring in a whole lot of, like, super young talent. So it's not like they're... Unless draft-wise, they've got a stacked academy this year and they're planning, but I don't think it's...
I thought Sydney were fairly overrated last year anyway.
Yeah. They did well to get to where they were,
Yeah.
considering the situation of the team. I think Isaac Keane will have a huge year, just depending...
Yeah, this will be his true breakout into an elite player
I think so. If he gets more time on the ball, but he's just so versatile, he can play anywhere. But I think Callum Mills coming back will be huge for the Swans.
Yeah.
But I think, those fixtures there, you probably should beat Freo twice.
Oh, I'd hope so.
I reckon
They're a
beat-
problem team for us,
I
unfortunately.
think Essendon could beat North twice. Pies is always a great contest.
Yes.
And the Giants, you touched on before, you're not sure about them.
The Giants have lost a lot of quality. It's
They get
unfortunate.
Sausage back, though, hopefully.
We'll see about that one. But yeah, I don't know.
Still a lot to play out with the old
I
sausage.
think he's a bit overcooked on the barbecues.
Losing, the players that they did, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for the Giants to...
So you don't reckon they'll make? Do you reckon they'll make the 8? Or
I think they'll be in a similar kind of position to Adelaide this year.
I reckon Adelaide have more of a chance to bank finals. Than
I think the
GWS.
Crows will re-gear and hit up the finals again.
Absolutely.
Miller
they're still
disagrees.
having flashbacks to 2017.
I reckon just at the start of the year, Fremantle are always hard to beat at Optus Stadium. Do you play them over here first, or is it?
I will have a look, but like I said before,
I don't think Freo
they're a problem team for us though. We always seem to find a way to lose to the Dockers.
Yeah, likewise to the Dogs. Like that. Like I know, like we play Freo twice as well, and over there at Optus Stadium or at Perth, like they're always a huge problem. We haven't beaten them for like nearly 10 years.
Yeah,
over
I don't
there.
know what it is.
we just beat them.
We played them the first time. We played them the first time at Marvel in round 9,
Yeah.
which is slightly better for us, but the home ground advantage never really means much. And then we played them again round 22 at Optus.
It's an interesting first month for the Bombers. They play, GWS is going to be, I think it's probably the match of the round because it's Dylan Shields' first game against the old mob. And then there's like, you got St Kilda, Melbourne and Brisbane. All of those games are in Melbourne. And I reckon...
I'm looking forward to that.
They're all winnable.
They're all winnable, but they're also...
You think so?
But the Melbourne-Brisbane games are going to be the most interesting ones because Brisbane, they're looking pretty formidable in this off-season and... Depending on how quickly their kids develop, I reckon they're going to cause huge problems.
I said a few weeks ago, even before the trade period had started, that I think Brisbane are going to be at least a 10-win team this year.
I think so. If they can make the Gabba a fortress again, like it previously was, like if they can win 25 to 30% of their games away and win upwards of 70% of their home games, they're in with a chance to do something. But I think the more those kids play at the Gabba, the more confident they'd get as a team out there. So I think Brisbane, there'll be a worry for a lot of teams this year.
I think it's lucky for the Lions that looking over their fixture, they play some of the teams that they're a bit of a challenge too at
Yes.
home. Port, as we saw last year, they came within 5 points of. Collingwood, they had some cracker games with. They've got the Hawks twice, who they beat twice
Beat
this year,
twice.
actually.
Is that game at Tasmania? At Launceston?
Yeah, I believe it was, yeah.
No, this year.
Oh, this year.
Does it say?
We'll have a look.
No,
Yes, it is. It is.
They'll
I
beat
think the
them again.
Hawks and will generally play Brisbane as a pretty much permanent fixture at Tasmania.
Yeah.
They like to have the not so much lesser teams, but the ones with lower supporters to get down there.
Yeah.
It's a small stadium and all.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think the Lions have got some real potential to at least win 10 games.
They're almost like a mixed bag. They could make the 8. Like anything is possible, I think, with that team.
Oh, they could, and especially if they manage to sign Jared Lyons, who it's been pretty much
I think,
almost
yeah, that will
confirmed that
happen.
they have.
yeah.
Yeah, the Lions going to challenge.
Like I'm still trying to work out why the hell Gold Coast still listed Jared Lyons. Is it?
Who knows?
It's been on my mind for the last 24 hours. Why did Gold Coast
I've been texting my man up at Gold Coast. I've got nothing back. So
texting you?
Nothing at all.
Who is the man?
I can't say.
It's an anonymous source.
Anonymous source.
Anonymous source.
Good mates with Nicky Holman.
Oh,
Tom
yes.
Not me. The guy is good friends with.
You know who else is good mates with Nicky Holman? Stewie Jew.
Stewie
Loves
Jew.
him.
Yeah.
Loves him.
I like Nick Holman. He's a good player.
Well, Jared Lyons, the latest to fall under Stewie Jew's boning knife.
It's strange.
I don't understand it.
A very strange call.
There'd have to be some external, what's it called?
I don't think there is.
I reckon Stuart Jew's just got a vendetta against experienced players at Metricon.
No, it must be their attitude. Because I think
From all accounts, Lyons is a very well-behaved
I
professional
know, but
young man.
I suppose it's what we don't see behind the scenes and what we're not told. But he seems like a pretty cool, calm, collected head. Goes about his job. Very effective player.
Yes.
Played 19 games, so it's not like he was lacking opportunities and stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't make a bit like Aaron Hall though.
Yeah.
I think
But Hall, it's pretty
Hall, there was-
documented that Hall and Jew don't really get along.
No,
And
but that's right. There's nothing about Lions, so I don't know what happened with that.
Well, you mentioned
Yes.
before we went on the air today, Miller, that he averaged about 25 touches and
mad.
was
basically almost their best
And-
player.
Yeah.
and averaged like about, what did you say, 7 clearances a game.
Yeah.
So this man can obviously play, and in a team where they are struggling to find midfield players, I don't even know why they want to get rid of him. They say it's a mutual decision.
It's not like he's old.
Well,
or
obviously it
anything,
was
though,
a
as
mutual
well.
decision in that case.
Yeah,
He was still under contract, so they
He
would have
must
had to break the contract.
He must have prematurely agreed terms with the Lions or something like that. I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, they're saying 3 years for
Yeah.
for Jared Lyons, and his brother is at the Lions too.
Corey.
So yeah, Corey is at the Lions, so it kind of makes a little bit more sense now when you think of it. But I still am trying to get around why they.
Yeah, I don't know. They said opportunities, but it's not like we all just said then. It's not like the Gold Coast midfield stack. No disrespect to them at all, but just it I don't know.
I mean, they did bring some players in to play midfield this year.
Yeah, but
Obviously,
it's not-
Miles and Horn.
But it's not like bringing those in are going to shift Jared Lyons
No,
to the
no.
twos.
Definitely
No.
not.
I don't know. I just don't. I don't see the point of the deal.
Like, I reckon out of the players that they've picked up, they had Corey Ellis isn't he's in midfielder,
He'd
is he?
probably play halfback wing.
Yeah, like-
he's
like-
not going to be.
I thought he was more of an outside player than an inside player. Miles will definitely get in.
Be the captain.
Homsch isn't a midfielder, and who was the other one? The other one was
They brought in those 3 state league guys, and I can't remember who the
I
other.
think one of them was tall forward.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I'm
no
trying to think.
Sam
who they
Sam
traded-
Collins. They brought
who
in.
they
Oh,
traded
Collins,
for.
that's right. Yeah.
He's key defender.
They traded for somebody else. I can't remember now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Miles, Holland Smith, Homsch.
Holland Smith.
Who are we missing?
Horn
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
But Jared Lyons isn't
they're not going to be pushed out.
worse
It's a
than.
very, very strange player to force out.
Anyway,
Moving on.
Oh well.
back to the fixture.
Back to the fixture. We had a look at the Tigers doubles ups as well. Obviously,
Yes.
Miller's boys. They played the Blues twice, the Giants twice, Port twice, Melbourne twice, and Collingwood twice.
Oh Jesus.
I
How do you
honestly expect the Giants and Port to fall a bit, so I think that's a bit of an
I think-
easier fixture
I
for you
think they
guys.
can win.
How do you get Carlton twice?
Crowds, mate.
Yeah, it's all the
It's
crowds.
crowds. It's a business.
2 big games at the G. Hey.
I think, depending where we play GWS, we do struggle sometimes up at Giant Land up
Mm.
at what's it called, Spotless.
Mm.
Port we usually beat. Mind you, we lost them last year, but Dusty wasn't playing.
I reckon Port will slide a lot next year.
Yeah, they've lost a
Yeah,
lot of
I
players
don't know what's
for
going on.
very little
Jack
back.
Watson's
Yeah.
gone off the charts.
Yeah, who knows if Watts leaving
we
play.
usually it's weird. Demons are like obviously a very formidable team, but we always seem to beat them, not comfortably, but by 2 or 3 goals. And Collingwood's always a 50-50 game. So
Yeah.
out of those doubles, I would expect as a supporter to win both of the Giants, Port, and Carlton games, and probably one of each of the Melbourne Pies games. Really.
I'd be pretty optimistic about your fixture, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like it.
Mind you, it could all go to hell if we get any injuries. We've got no depth anymore.
Yeah, true. You've lost all your depth, hey.
Jacob Townsend's one of the boys to go.
Yes.
Chopped, obviously, yesterday. What do you make of that, fellas?
well,
He's got a lot to offer.
Well, I reckon we covered it a bit last week. I reckon he'll find a new home if that decides to happen. I think
He's 25.
25 premiership player.
Still in a good age range.
He can play, and he proved it last year when he got his opportunity.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I can't see him getting in ahead of guys like Rioli and Butler
No.
and Caddy. I know you said last week he was going to play more midfield, but I reckon he's better suited up forward. But I just can't see him getting in ahead of those guys at the moment. So I think he had a medical at Sydney during the week.
Probably get up there, I think.
I reckon he could get up to Sydney. He'd definitely get a game. Definitely get a game up
I
there.
think so.
Cam Sutcliffe from the Dockers
Yes.
apparently is talking with the Swans as well. I feel like Sutcliffe is a player that was probably delisted for a reason. I don't know if he's
Do you
got a lot
reckon?
to offer.
Yeah,
I don't know about Cam Sutcliffe. I think
Everybody's been talking about the man from Freo that's been on everyone's minds is Tommy Sheridan.
Yeah, met with the Giants earlier in the week. I heard.
But I
Well-
think Sutcliffe is. I think the Dockers have gotten rid of him, because he
Just
just
doesn't-
doesn't have very much to offer.
Yeah, fair enough.
well he's got a little bit of skill, but he's not as talented as a lot of other folks on AFL rosters are.
Mm.
So, given that he plays as a small defender, I can't
Well,
see.
for one thing, Freo don't need him.
Yeah, I can't see him getting a game at Sydney, particularly when they brought in Thurlow and Ryan Clark.
Mhm.
So I don't really see him going up there. I think he'll be playing up in the state leagues next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I
Probably
think
where
so.
his talents are needed, to be honest.
Gee,
Jeez.
that's
Um,
stiff.
Doc, the Dogs fixture.
Yes.
Aside from your Good Friday, what have you got? What have you got
s-
to tell me?
So for our double up games, we have Collingwood twice. One of them is on a Friday night game, our only Friday night game of
Ooh.
the year, which is probably fair given the fact that we didn't play that well this year.
Do you don't
Geelong,
want another Carlton situation?
we play the Cats twice. I don't like it when we play Geelong, but
Dogs,
Just straight up hates
dogs do not like cats, that is true.
yeah, I don't like playing Geelong, particularly over at GMHBA Stadium or Cardinia Park,
it. Oh my god. GMHBA.
the sellout stadium.
What a mouthful.
And we also play Freo twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Brisbane twice and Carlton twice. So
Mm.
I think it's okay. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
I reckon we can get at least one win out of Geelong,
Yeah.
as we proved this year. Freo, not convinced we can beat them over at Optus Stadium just yet. We got thumped there this year, but I'm very happy we get a game at Etihad against them because I think that they don't play very well up there.
What round do you play Geelong? What's the first round?
I will get back to you with that in a moment.
I wanted to, while Doc's doing that, the AFL did say there was going to be more Thursday night games in this fixture, but
Ugh.
we had a look over all of them and there was only one extra, well, at least that's a stat that I saw.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really saying that there's going to be more and then putting only one more is not really staying true to their word. And I'd
It's like you're going to get a
the,
pay rise and you get an extra 23 cents or something like that. Yeah.
I really like the Thursday night games.
you?
I think, it's extending the round, just have a little bit more football going on. It feels like, over a few more days.
But it doesn't really extend the round, really.
Well, it doesn't, but you got footy across more days. Take any excuse to
True,
watch the
that is
footy.
true. But then you sit down on a Thursday night, crack open a coal, and then you realise you've got to go to work the next day.
I
Yeah.
suppose.
yeah, like
Nothing beats a Friday night thinking that you don't have to do anything on a Saturday morning.
I reckon it's in the same bracket as Sunday night footy, Thursday night footy, because you got to get up. You got to get up for work. People have to get up for work next morning.
Yeah,
right?
people have lives, AFL.
Yes. So I don't really understand why they.
No. I don't mind that.
I'm okay to the partial Thursday night game. I'm even okay for the Thursday night games in the middle of the season. But too many. There is a thing as too many Thursday night games. I think the AFL. They're trying to branch out to something that's very unnecessary.
A bit like the NFL, though. I think they want to try and get it as much, like you said, though, Kat, as across many days a week as possible.
And
You're keeping footy in people's minds for longer.
Yes.
I was going to say, Miller, we played Geelong round 9
There you
Saturday
go.
night.
Luke Dalhouse will come back to that.
At Cardinia Park.
I know. They'll go down to him.
At Cardinia Park.
They're going to hit. It's their weekend.
We also the return game at Marvel Stadium is at round 16, so that's a Saturday night game as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Be some crackers.
I'll tell you what, it'll be everyone's going to boot Luke Dalhouse.
Oh yeah.
Having been a Bulldog supporter for so long now, we always have a vendetta against people who leave the club.
I think Melbourne still boo Tom Scully.
Well,
they're gonna even now the Giants fans are going to boo him too.
I don't blame them.
No.
So I was going to say back to.
I think sorry to interrupt, Doc, but I think the Bulldogs fans are particularly rabid about it. My girlfriend's a dog supporter, and she said she was planning on burning her Dell House badge. So
I wouldn't.
Bit harsh, but
I wouldn't go as far as to burning that. I don't have one personally, but
If I did.
but that's his prerogative to go to Geelong, and personally, I don't think he'd get a game next year.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Not after the way he's played this year.
I still think you guys, as a very young team, would
There's your
be
headline.
wanting. Luke Dalhouse would not get a game at the Dogs.
Get a
in
game in my
2019.
team, no doubt about that.
No, he'd struggle. He'd struggle because he's.
He's got to walk into Geelong's lineup, and you tell me he's got to struggle to get a game at the Western Bulldogs.
No, he'll get a gig at Geelong because all their old players are just about done. Ablett and Selwood are on the back end of their careers.
Daniel Randall's washed up. Bro.
He's gone now, mate. He's gone.
He's forgotten.
I'll guarantee you he won't make a lick of difference for Geelong next year.
I reckon he'll be a big reason why they.
Yeah, I think he'll have the best year he's had in a long time.
Yeah, I just think that it's a different environment, and he'll have to just put his gears up.
Prove me wrong, Luke Dalhouse. That's what I'm saying. Prove me wrong.
There you go. You got to answer to Doc personally.
Give me a ball.
I was going to say we played Brisbane and Adelaide at Ballarat this year, as opposed to
That's good.
Port and Geelong. So I'm pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. We played Brisbane round 8, which is where we played Gold Coast this year, round roughly area. Adelaide in the last round, which is pretty interesting given the fact that we played Port at Ballarat, a couple of rounds before the end of the season, and I know you went to that game, Kat.
Absolute shocker.
And having watched the game on TV, I didn't envy you, to be honest.
We stayed until halftime. The rain and the hail was just too much. It was like, we're watching it from home. This is too much.
So I think...
Back to the hotel room.
And that caused a bit of debate about whether or not you should have Mars Stadium in the middle of winter. But this is probably more towards the end of winter, and usually the weather in Ballarat's a lot better by then.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens here. I'd imagine it'd be another early game.
Yeah.
Like another 1 o'clock game.
Oh, you want to do it early so people have got time to get home, back to Melbourne or Geelong or wherever they're coming from.
Or in the case of the Crows, go back to Adelaide.
There were a couple Port supporters who had done the drive up and were staying for the weekend that we sat next to, an old couple.
Oh, yes.
Some dedication to go all the way to Ballarat to sit there in that weather.
That is dedication. I wouldn't be driving Adelaide Oval.
No, can't say I'd be doing the same if I lived in Adelaide. Miller, there's a man that you are very excited about who's making a return to football.
Yes. John O'Marsh.
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
Name rings a bell to some.
Former Pies player.
Yep.
Former Collingwood sort of key defender. Retired from the game due to his mental health stuff. He said that he is going to 110% nominate for the draft this year.
Interesting.
Which is fantastic to see. It's good to see players come back from that mental health stuff and have the confidence to come back into the game in general.
Yeah.
He's a Western Australian boy, but at the end of 2016, he did want to trade from the Pies. And they tried to get that deal done, but they just fell through at the final hurdle. So he had his contract run out and then just went back to East Fremantle, played in the Waffle.
Yep.
Still only 23, but he said he's very excited to get another chance if anyone's willing to take a punt on him. So it's good to see that stuff.
I agree. I think he didn't play many games. He played, 16?
He's played 15, yeah.
15.
But you rate him, do you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
You like
I
him?
think he's tall, athletic, which is what you want now in your key defenders. That's what everyone wants.
Got a bit of power behind him
Got
as well.
a bit of power, a lot of leg speed, and 23, still plenty to give.
He's about him in his prime.
Yeah, I think whoever gets him, be a
I'd be
steal.
looking at him if I was Gold Coast or Carlton. Carlton, Sam Rowe's gone. They need someone
Yep.
to be that big key defender. Wiedering's just not old enough to be the biggest one down there. Him and Jones, I don't think, can do it by themselves. He'd be a good pickup for the
Yeah.
Blues.
I feel like he'd strive in a third tall sort of role.
Yeah,
I
Not
reckon.
as maybe a...
I reckon he would. Probably not Carlton. Gold
Not
Coast
Carlton.
could pick him up.
Yeah.
But I think I read that article on the AFL website, and he said that either way he was going to go back to Victoria to support his girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
So out of the Victorian teams, I'm trying to think at the top of my head.
Who needs a tall defender?
He probably won't be a good fit at Carlton.
St Kilda.
St Kilda might be a good fit, particularly because
Jake Carlisle needs a bit of help down there.
Jake Carlisle needs a bit of help.
A third, yeah. Actually,
Dylan
a third
Robertson
man.
plays the third tall over there pretty well, but there's still a bit of question about his health.
Yeah.
Mm.
Dylan Robertson plays as a rebounding defender, though.
Yeah, he
still.
does play. He does play as a rebounding defender as well.
And I feel like
so-
they'd want him more, yeah.
Yeah.
and
Up on the flank
like
or
a
coming off
Doherty sort of
half back.
player.
Yeah.
and Gilbert's still listed too. So
How's that?
um,
How is that?
Jared Blair also gave the Chop Boys yesterday. What'd you make of that?
no,
He
surprised?
reckons he's a chance for a list spot.
no, I'm not surprised, Miller. Not surprised.
Played
because-
2 games, Doc.
Yeah,
This year.
2 games. What did he
2
do?
games this year.
What did he do in those 2 games?
Probably sweet.
Wait, he's
nothing.
a VFL hero.
Yeah,
He is.
I didn't think so.
Sam
but,
McClarty also getting to listen to Adam Oxley, which is an interesting one. Oxley was a big part of their team a couple of years ago. Just injuries and form have seen him slip out. Do you reckon he'll get a gig somewhere else? Probably not. Back to the
yeah,
VFL?
VFL.
Who Oxley?
yeah.
I don't know if I'd
Nah,
be...
you wouldn't get a
Very
He's
good
not
marking
high
player.
profile. I don't think he'd pass very many medicals, to be honest.
No.
Yeah.
No, Blair played 2 games, didn't kick a goal, averaged 18 disposals.
Well, no, finishes that.
Cal Kirby got retired during the week because of his
Yes.
heart problems, which was a bit sad and a bit disappointing because
Mm.
I actually rated Cal Kirby. I thought he had quite a bit of talent. Like I think
to
there
say
were-
the least.
yeah.
It was very scary watching that.
Vision.
Yeah.
Seeing him collapse on the field. It's like you think he's dead.
Yeah.
You've got no idea what's going on. And imagine what the players are thinking seeing him out there.
Yeah.
And I think from all understandings, he was quite a popular figure in Collingwood, not just Collingwood, but in
They love him.
in the Collingwood fan base.
Bit of a cult hero.
Yeah, he is a bit of a cult hero.
For a young man
Like-
as well.
I quite like him too. So it's quite disappointing to see him retire so
yeah.
early.
We wish
But
him all the best in his future endeavours.
yeah, but I think it's probably the right move for him because
Absolutely.
You want to prioritise your health
Your
over
health comes
everything else.
first. Speaking of health,
Yeah.
Jack Frost also.
Yes.
Another
He's-
Collingwood player.
Concussion.
ex-Collingwood
ex-Collingwood player.
I
Brisbane
read
hero.
that he copped about 15 concussions
Yeah,
over his career, which
in
is
6 seasons.
ridiculous.
I read 14, so
Oh, there you go.
that's a
Similar numbers.
That's a staggering number.
There's no way he should have even been playing 2 years ago.
Nah, I
No.
don't think so.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that a lot of players go down with this concussion kind of thing.
Six-
Just copping so many.
14 in 6 years. That's just
14 in 6 years.
just played 2 games since he went to Brisbane in 2016.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a
Unfortunately,
regular
yeah.
though at Collingwood though during that time where they transitioned from the Lee Browns and Chris Tarrant.
Prestigiacomo's.
All
Oh,
those players sort of left and they looked for a younger mould and Frost was capable one-on-one defender for a long time and then
yes.
Yeah,
went to Brisbane.
I always thought he was a bit of a goer, Sam Frost.
Yeah.
And, like not flash, not a flashy player, but I thought he got the job done
Yeah.
most weeks.
So
So
you have to come watch Sam Frost down in Melbourne.
Yeah, so just watch his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just back on the fixture before we go anywhere else.
Mm.
The GWS
Backing up
Giants,
into it.
GWS Giants have only one Friday night game this year, which is a bit surprising for me personally.
Yes.
Maybe the AFL shares my opinion that the Giants are on the way down.
Yeah. I'm not opposing him to that either. I think
Yeah.
losing those sort
Yeah.
of players will cause them to slide down a little bit. Probably not in the bottom 6 bracket, but I think they'll probably
Oh,
be
no.
I think they'll probably be in the midfield.
Like
Well-
I said, similar to Adelaide
whilst
this year,
whilst
about 10th place.
Whilst they're trying to get all their young kids developed, your Tarantos, your your Perrymans.
Oh, we love him. The
The,
thick boy.
And Taranto's Victorian, though, isn't he?
yeah, but I
He'll
think
go.
I feel
think
like
he'll
I've heard he loves it up at the Giants.
Yeah, I
so-
think he'll stay up there though.
Yeah.
So the
Absolutely
one
loves it.
Friday night game GWS get is in Canberra, and
Oh, yes.
and they play Hawthorn.
Jesus.
So
That'll be a good one.
yeah, I reckon it will be interesting. That's a
They
prime
always
time.
put on
That's
a
a prime
show.
time game for sure.
Yeah.
What round's that?
I think it's round. Oh, it's late in the year. I think it's like
Late
round
in the year.
20 or something.
It's a long time to wait for a Friday night.
Round 20 or 21.
Oh, gee, some teams don't have any Friday night. Will
That's
they?
true.
Gold Coast won't have any Friday night.
No,
Gold
don't
Coast
think
don't have
Carlton
one.
will either.
Carlton don't have a Friday night game either.
Brisbane?
Don't think.
No, well, they got the Thursday. Got the Easter Thursday.
Yeah.
That's just as prime time.
Yeah, I suppose for them it would be.
round
Yeah.
round 21 is
The Lions. Oh no, that's
Far out.
the
Hawthorn
Hawthorn
Giants.
GWS game.
not
Uh,
bad. Not a bad one.
I'm just having a look see if Brisbane get any.
The
Friday
Dogs have any Friday night games?
No, just the one. We play Collingwood round 4.
Yeah.
That'll get a decent credit. Is that yours or their home game?
It's their home game.
So at the G. Not
Yeah,
too
that-
shabby.
yeah, that's at the MCG.
Used to
so-
be at Etihad. That Friday, those games when you used to
yeah.
play them.
Well, Collingwood had a home game against the Bulldogs this
Yeah,
year.
well, at Etihad.
at Etihad.
I think
yeah.
Collingwood don't want to have any home games
Yeah,
at
I don't think
Etihad.
Eddie would be. a fan of
No.
No, I don't think. No, Brisbane don't have any.
Well, sorry, Marvel boys, Marvel.
No, Brisbane don't have any Friday night games this year. Carlton don't have any Friday night games.
Well, I'd like that the AFL is at least rewarding the teams who played well the year before with
And-
the prime time slots. That's really the way they should be doing it.
Well, the Giants.
and
play.
sorry,
That's
Saints.
true. The Giants should probably get a few more.
The Saints don't have any Friday night games either, which is
They
probably
never
fair
get any
enough.
Friday night games.
Well, it's because
The
they're no
AFL
good.
hates the Saints.
Well, it's because they're no good.
No, Gil's trying to show that complete anti-bias. Doesn't want to be accused of anything
I didn't
anything
know
shifty.
He was a Saints boy.
Well,
yeah, he Saints
Yeah,
boy,
till the other day.
Yeah.
well, I think it's fair enough that Carlton don't get any Friday night games. It staggers me how they.
We all know Doc's love for the Blues.
No.
He
I
loves
don't know
them.
how they did it for so long.
Yeah, I don't even know how they got so many Friday night games. When
Well,
it was
for
so
2 years they've been
when-
just finessing. Apparently, one of the selection committee for the fixture was a Carlton employee or something.
No,
Oh.
no.
Something shifty.
There we go.
Some shifty
Something
business.
shifty.
And I don't think Fremantle have any Friday night games either.
God, you
Oh,
hope
yeah.
not.
Nah, I wouldn't have thought so. Not after the.
No
last
one wants to
few
see
seasons.
Ross go on a Friday.
Nah. Do you reckon next year? Do you reckon next year will be Ross Lyons last year?
Oh,
nice.
nah, they love him.
They love
He's
him.
contracted for like 5 years, isn't he?
I can't believe it.
It's like something ridiculous.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
just signed his big 5-year deal during the year.
So should we just quickly go through round one?
All right, we'll have a little squiz at the round
Squiz?
one fixture.
How are we going for time here?
We're about half now. We should be right.
No, nice.
So
Gary.
the Thursday night, the opening game of the season, Carlton and Richmond at the
Oh.
MCG. I'll probably be heading on to that one.
Uh,
Always a good game.
Yes, I will be as well.
I reckon.
It's a pretty
I re-
independent of ladder position kind of game. The Blues did well last
I
year.
was going to say this year they were fantastic.
Oh, yes, this year
that
that is.
opening game, everyone thought, oh, yep, it's New Carlton only down by 2 or
Yeah.
3 goals.
Charlie Kerner and Matty Wright kicked 4
Mind
goals
you,
each.
that umpiring was disgusting. We had that stupid 10-metre refrigerant rule paid against us about 15 times.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when everyone was going off about it. And next week they still kept paying it.
Yeah.
The only reason they're in the game is because they had about 3 or 4 free kicks from the goal square.
Here we
Yeah.
go. Conspiracy theories on the A3 podcast today.
It was Halloween yesterday, so I may as well.
It was.
Oh.
It was.
Spooky theories. I don't know. I think Carlton gets smacked again.
Yes, I already gave my spooky theory. The AFL hates the Bulldogs. How spooky. Jesus. How spooky is that?
Friday night.
Friday night, the Pies and the Cats also at the MCG. Probably be heading to that one as well. That'll be a bumper crowd.
Yeah,
The Pies supporters are going to be out and about
At the G as well. That would
for
be massive.
2019.
Massive.
Can't believe I did that.
I can. We've had 2 already tonight.
Yes.
1 from each of you.
2 little porkies. Anyway.
Don't worry, I'm a sensible young adult.
Oh.
I reckon that'll be a huge game.
Yeah.
Geelong Collingwood rivalry is always pretty big.
Has
Yeah.
been since the about 2010 or so.
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon that's going to be a very interesting game to watch. Collingwood, obviously, looking to bounce back from such a game that they probably should have won. And I think the Cats, they'll probably have something to prove as well. So I know I just said I don't really rate Geelong that much, but I think the Cats will probably be around the bottom half of the 8, around the midfield.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna have something to prove on Friday night.
Well, we'll get these actual tips in at the start of next year. This is kind of a preemptive.
This is interesting, though, okay. If you read the time of the next game and location,
7:50.
no,
Yes.
the next game.
Oh, the next game.
The next game.
Melbourne and Port at the MCG. At
That's an afternoon game.
1:45.
So there's 3 games in a row at the G.
Yes.
But there's no... Is there any Saturday night footy? No, there'll be none at the G. There's one at Marvel.
and there's none on Sunday either.
So there's one game in Melbourne. No. Is there how many games in Melbourne?
Yeah, because
After that,
Sunday
2
Saints and the
games.
Suns are at Marvel.
2 games in Melbourne in the next... how many games are there? 8. Interesting, isn't it? Because you'd think
Okay.
that Port-Melbourne game, I would have that at the Adelaide Oval, and then maybe...
Put Hawthorn in Tasmania or something.
Well, yeah.
Put Hawthorn and the Crows
Yep,
in Tassie.
at Tassie, and then have something on a Saturday night at the G, and then Sunday Arvo at the G.
I don't see the issue with all the Melbourne games.
No, I don't. I just think
Works
that,
well for us.
I don't
here
know.
in
Don't you think
Victoria.
3 in a row is a bit strange, though, especially with the time slot?
I think the AFL wants the big teams on the Friday, Thursday night, to be honest.
Yeah, but if you...
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the G's a spectacle either way.
Mm.
You could have someone... You could just move that game down.
You can imagine there'll be at least probably 85, 90,000
So there's-
Thursday night game.
There's only one game in Melbourne on Sunday, and it's
Yes.
St Kilda Gold Coast
Yes.
at Marvel. So it's not like it's...
Well, I think the AFL doesn't really put much importance towards Sunday in general.
with the 110 times.
They don't really like it.
No, they consider the 4:40 Sunday games as the graveyard shift.
The most interesting game on the Sunday is us playing the Giants.
Yeah, that's probably at the moment it's probably the game of the round because of Dylan Shiel and the Giants.
Never heard of him.
Fremantle North will be an interesting one because not many people.
Oh, good.
No, I think Fremantle, particularly early on in the year, they play Optus Stadium pretty well, and North finished 9th this year, so they're going to be up in the
I think they'll make 6th or 5th this year.
Yeah, I reckon they'll play finals.
I think Jasper Pitto could win a Brownlow.
Oh, come on.
He'll have an elite year. I think Jasper Pitto can make All Australian if he gets a game every week.
No,
That's a big call.
that's huge.
Plenty of talent.
No, we all know
That-
the best headline today was Luke Dalhouse.
Yeah.
Wouldn't make best 22 at the
So what are their games? Sorry, after the Port Melbourne one.
We've got Adelaide and Hawthorn. Adelaide Oval.
What time is that?
4:05 game.
Ridiculous. Why would you have a 4:05?
You gotta have something in between.
What is this? The Wild West?
Like I reckon, like
Why 4:05?
I would-
You gotta have something in there.
Have like a twilight game.
There's always Saturday game. That'll, mind you, that's Adelaide time for us. That's 4:30.
Mate, it's disgusting.
yeah, I reckon those two teams will be playing for the.
Who
eight
sits
this year.
down on a Saturday afternoon at 4:30 to watch football?
I do, mate.
Yeah,
I do.
I do.
This isn't an under 16s.
Sit
local
down to
grand
watch
final.
every game, mate.
I do if I'm not.
Either
working.
I'm there or I'm watching it at home.
All right, you go to Adelaide for us.
No, I'm not going to Adelaide, mate.
The 4:05
Oh,
correspondent.
looking at this round, I'm going to be hitting up 4 games, which is pretty good.
Talk it up.
Yeah, mate. Gotta use the
Marvel?
AFL membership.
We have La Dogs.
Yes, the Dogs and the Swans.
That's a massive game.
7:25.
I reckon
That's a huge game.
it's a mammoth game. No, I reckon this game is probably going to be the one that sets up the Dogs season because the Swans.
Sets the scene.
It is round 1.
Yes.
Like I know it's a very early call to make, but we should have beaten Sydney this year.
You should have.
It was a very close game.
It was a very good game, and I reckon the Dogs played probably as the better of the two sides for most of that game.
I'll agree with that.
So I reckon if the Dogs are serious about wanting to play finals again, these are the sort of games they have to win.
Yes.
And I know-
against the challengers.
And I know that the side's still relatively young, but they've still got the talent there to actually knock over sides like Sydney. Like they did it last year. They did it this year when they beat North.
They did.
in the back end of the year.
I think the Dogs and Saints are wildcard teams for me. They can make the 8, they cannot make the 8. So
Yeah, they could finish anywhere. Yeah.
It'll be it'll be a good game to say the least. Sam Lloyd could have another final.
Oh,
silent
you are
goal
high on Sammy Lloyd.
against the Swans. He's done it before. You never know.
Will Sam Lloyd kick 5 or 6 on the Swans?
Oh,
It's what
he's
I-
hoping.
It's what I want to
I
know.
think he'll kick another game winner. He's done it before.
That'd be a spectacle.
Imagine Lloyd. I think it'd be a good play for you guys.
The Lions and the Eagles. will be that night at the Gabba.
So that'll be a good game.
Yeah.
At the Gabba.
Gabba.
If
West
you
Coast
see-
aren't terribly consistent travelling away
Travelling,
from
no.
their Weagle fortress.
From the,
Well, they played at the Gabba in the last round of the home and away season this year, and Brisbane played pretty reasonable.
Ran them to the post. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, like, I reckon it's a good test for West Coast, particularly as the reigning premiers. Brisbane are up and coming. It's going to be interesting to see what Neil and Jared Lyons can bring to this
Yes.
Brisbane midfield.
I think it'll be fantastic. And
It's-
see how they cope with the loss of Beams as well.
Yeah.
I think, Neil
feel
and
like
Lions are
Lockie-
plenty to fill that void. to
I
be
feel like
honest.
Lockie Neal's it is almost a like-for-like replacement. Mind you, I would rather obviously Beams than Lockie Neal.
Yeah. I think
Ooh.
If I'm rebuilding a team like Brisbane, you want a 25-year-old or
Yeah.
24-year-old.
I would say the biggest difference between Beams and Neil is Beams can kick goals as opposed to
he's
Neil,
a proven
who,
goal kicker.
as opposed to Neil, who probably does it like once every
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Mm. Neil's the more genuine inside
Yeah.
midfielder,
He's
where
ju-
you'd want Beams playing around the ground a bit more.
Yeah, he's just a ball magnet, Lockie
Yeah.
Neil, and nothing wrong with that.
No, he's a good.
Dane Beams is probably a bit more of a complete midfielder as
Yeah.
opposed to Lockie
Mm.
Neal.
I feel like that's what the Lions want in there now, though. Like you've got the young guys like Barry and McCluggage are two guys that I'm really high on in their midfield, who are kind of the more outside runner types. And we saw McCluggage this year breaking a few lines.
He'll have
and-
another big year, McClug.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier that Brisbane are looking to make Gabba a fortress. I think they already do it. I cannot remember the number of games where they were actually close to winning
Yeah,
at the Gabba
they were
this year.
very.
And even
consistent.
like the year before, they were pretty close to winning games at the Gabba against some of the teams, some of the bigger teams.
I
Yeah.
think as well, like fortress-wise, I mean, going out there and feeling like they have control of the ground, because nothing would it'd be like when West Coast go on Optus.
Oh yeah,
Like you just feel that momentum when they've got the crowd behind them and got control of the stadium. Like they'll have bigger crowds this year, Brisbane, than they've ever had. I think.
yeah.
Mm. Lions fans are very, very much around the team at the moment.
Yeah.
If you had a look at the from a few weeks ago, the coach approval ratings, Chris Fagan was
Fagan is
over
well up
90%. He was like one of the top few.
And that, like we talked about a month ago, he re-signed, so they've obviously got faith in him. And I think that'll be a massive game. So I'll definitely get around that one.
Mm.
Yeah, that's.
It'll be a huge game.
I still can't
Gotta
believe.
say I'm not confident.
Before we move on to the next game, Dane Beams kicked 5 goals in a 30+ and didn't get a Brownlow vote.
That is shocking.
I can't believe.
That's disgusting.
The Sunday,
Who's umpiring that game?
Probably Razor.
Yeah.
the first Sunday game at 1:10, we've got the Saints and the Suns at Marvel Stadium. There were a couple of crackers. Well, there was a cracker game last year for these two teams.
Game of the round.
Probably one of the less interesting ones of this round, but you know,
No, what are
Very
you?
good game.
No, what are you talking about? It'll be a massive.
it'll be massive.
No, I think Saints probably should start the season.
It'll
one
set the
up.
scene for them, really, what they want to achieve in 2019.
Yeah.
If they can come out and smash the Suns, the Saints are going to make a statement and say, we're not here to mess around this year.
Yeah.
The
Mind
Saints
you,
are back.
anyone can smash the Suns though.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
But how many times
There'd,
did you...
there'd be a couple of reserve teams in my local league that could smash the Suns.
Oh, harsh. How many teams did you see the Saints smash this year, though?
Not many.
Is the thing.
They don't bury teams at all.
No,
No.
And
But-
they don't win by comfortable margins. at all.
No, they should beat the Gold Coast over there though. Easy.
No, it's at
I mean,
Marvel.
yeah, here.
Marvy.
At Marvel,
Marvel Stadium.
And the other two games are...
we've got the game of the
We
round.
talked about this one.
The Giants and the Bombers at
You'd be excited for this,
Spotless
Kat?
at 3:20. I'm very excited for
You
this.
going up there?
No, not going up there. No, thank you.
No, he'll just tune in on the TV.
I've never actually travelled during the regular season. I think the only interstate game I've ever been to was Gold Coast and Brisbane, the Q Clash of 2016 or something.
Lovely.
It's a very average game. Metricon is a lovely stadium.
What
Though.
else
It's
you
actually
see?
quite nice. It is quite nice.
Nah.
But no, it's going to be a huge game. Dylan Shield obviously playing against his old team for the first time. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to see what we're going to do in 2019 because I have very high expectations for this year.
That'll be a good game.
I think everyone's going to have high expectations of Essendon this year, and I think that's. If they have another season like that, then there's going to be some huge ramifications.
Oh, look, let's Let's just hope not. Hey,
Yeah, look, I hope not.
I'm hoping
Because-
we finally find that consistency.
Because the list that Essendon has definitely got potential to be at least a top 4 team.
Oh, yes, I would agree.
Like, the amount of players that actually stood out in the second half of the year were phenomenal. And I think the Bombers, they'll definitely be up there this next year.
I bloody well hope so. I'm ready for us to take some names and win some finals. Hopefully.
All
The
right,
last
before
game
we-
of the round. Well, Dockers and North, we did kind of
We
touch
kind of
on.
did that. I was going to say,
Yeah.
before we wrap up the show, we're going to do our round of the season.
Oh, yes.
We're all going to do one team.
Yep.
We're not going to do our own team.
Did
Does
you,
it-
did
does
you
everyone-
just say,
Okay.
did you say round of the season?
round of the
Game
game
of
of the
the-
round.
game of the
Game of the season.
Yes.
Or round,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
I was going to say, if we had to choose a round of the season, it'd be round 20 where we had like five
yes.
games decided by less
Oh,
than
yes.
a kick.
What a
Is it-
game that was.
Hands down.
So, unfortunately, well, I'm not going to be biased. I'm not going to do my own team.
Going to pull out a different one.
I'm going to go
Yes.
for round 13, Gold Coast St Kilda
Oh, what a game.
at Metricon.
That
what
was
a game that was.
That was a cracking game. of
Ring some
football.
bells. 78 to 80.
Look at that.
The Suns were up by 5 goals, wasn't it?
Yes.
Carolina, three-quarter time.
Their highest lead was 7 goals.
7
though.
goal lead, and then Jade Gresham kicked the goal with 1:20 left, I remember, and that was game, set, match, and
Oh,
That was
I
a-
think that was
heartbreaking.
yeah, it'd be tough for the Suns, but for the Saints, that'd be one of their most enjoyable comeback wins of all time.
Mm.
that was an epic game. Like, that was an epic comeback. Like,
Yeah.
Gold Coast, like, I remember this game really well, and Gold Coast took control of that game for pretty much all of those 3 quarters, all those first 3 quarters, and then St Kilda just turned it on, or Gold Coast just turned it off.
You just fire out some of the top players for both teams, the top 2 maybe.
Oh, Seb Ross got an easy 33 disposals. Jack Stephen 28,
Yeah.
doing as they do. Jack Billings had a pretty big game in what we thought was a pretty quiet year for him. He had 27.
Yeah.
Carlisle was solid across the back line, as we mentioned already. Jade Gresham probably had the game of his career.
Yeah.
I think this is probably what's cemented in a lot of people's minds, that
Yeah.
Gresham can be an All-Australian player
I think
within
so.
a few
What
years.
about the Suns? Any promising?
Swallow and Lions doing what they do, extracting.
Yeah, I was going to say Jared Lyons.
Yeah.
23 touches.
Our man. Tom Lynch kicked 3. Nicky Holman kicked 2.
Yep.
Sexton kicked 3, our man.
Oh, yes.
Good stuff.
When's he coming in?
Soon, I hope.
Yeah,
look,
it's just
it was
a good game to
game.
watch. Anyway, that's my game. You fellas, who wants to go next?
The Dockers?
What-
You
does-
got a game?
Does
or-
it have to be?
You can do your
you can
dogs.
choose the dogs.
Okay,
mate.
so if I'm gonna
He's probably got 20 tabs open. It's like each round of the dogs.
no, I've only got a couple.
every win.
No, there's a couple of dogs games I just want to quickly highlight.
Yes.
Before I go into one that's not
Just a few.
I just
Before-
want one.
before I go into the one that's not a Bulldogs game.
That's
the,
epic.
the 2 Bulldogs North Melbourne games were pretty spectacular to watch. I went to the one on Saturday night, round 14, I think it was, and even though we lost last kick in the last minute, like, it was still a very, very exciting game to watch. It was full of fire, had a bit of flair, and I thought
Sure did.
probably North deserved that win because we threw it away in the last 90 seconds. But it was still a very, very exciting game. Had me on the edge of the seat pretty much until Zeeble kicked the match winner.
And what a moment that was.
That was... Well, no, not really. If you're a North supporter, yes.
Who was the idiot that kicked it out of full? Mitch Wallace.
Mitch
wasn't it?
Wallace.
Mm.
Oh, I can't believe
That
that.
was the moment when the Bulldogs supporters were calling for him to get
idiot.
delisted.
There was about 3 other things he could have done, and he did the one thing that we didn't want him to
The
do.
worst.
Get him.
And the corresponding game late in the year where the Dogs won for Dale Morris's 250th was pretty exciting as well.
Yeah.
I think we were down by about 5 goals midway through the second quarter, and then we smashed them, cleared house in the third quarter, got to about, I think we were about 20 points ahead, and then North tried to fight back. They couldn't get the lead, and the Dogs pulled it off. The Bulldogs Geelong game is the one I want to talk about the most, though. It was the Dogs had not beaten Geelong in over a decade. That's how
It's a long time.
that's how
That's a long time in football, as they say.
that's not just bad, but it's frustrating for dog supporters to see the Cats beat us year after year. So this one had a lot of meaning, and given the fact that we pretty much matched them all throughout the game, this one was probably one of the more exciting games I've watched this year. We probably by reckoning, we probably should have lost it because the Dogs, they were going to, this was the week after they choked against North Melbourne. They probably should have lost this one too because they turned the ball over in the middle and Harry Taylor took the clean mark and then he ended up missing
And
to
he
the left.
sprayed
And then BT was like, why are there so many men on the mark? So it was because you can. At least they're not infringing. They're just standing behind the man on the mark.
Yeah.
But I thought that game was probably amongst one of the games of the year.
Huge games.
Or I'm just trying to list off some of the highest possession winners. Dunkley had 27. Dowhouse probably had one of his best games of the year. Probably his only best game. Had 29 touches. Ed Richards kicked 3, which I'm really high on Ed Richards. I think.
Richards, yeah, he just looks fantastic.
I think
off half back, off half forward.
Yeah, he can play either end. He's going to be a star, Ed Richards. Only Tom Hawkins kicked 3 for the Cats. Kelly had 34 touches. I think half of those came in the last quarter. And I thought,
yeah, he stood up. Hey,
It's not bad.
it will be interesting to see how he responds to not being traded home next year.
It's going to be an interesting year, yeah, for Kelly. How do you play 22 games for clubs that you don't really want to be at?
Well, I don't think it matters to him. Like, he just wants to be out there and play top level footy. He's not like one of those ones where you'll sit out if you don't get traded. Yeah, he's made it known that he'll be happy to play out next year, and whether or not he actually plays to 110% is going to be a entirely different story. We won't find out until round 1. Yeah. But I think he'll play every game, if not most.
Surely.
Ablett had 31 touches. Dangerfield had 31 touches. Selwood had 34. So, all the big names.
It was a massive game. Honestly, if you hadn't said that one, Doc, I was probably going to say it's the Bulldogs and Geelong game. I'll fall back onto an Essendon game just because it was a huge game that I'll probably never forget. When we played the Hawks in round 20, even though we lost it, unfortunately, with James Warple kicking that last sealer.
The Warpedo.
Oh, it was... That last quarter was some of the loudest I've ever heard the MCG.
Yeah, it was an amazing atmosphere.
When we'd kicked that goal to get back in front, it was just... The G was going off. It was nail biting. Everyone was nervous. I was sitting with... a couple of family members who are Hawks supporters, and we were all absolutely shitting ourselves. No one knew who was going to win. It was last roll of the dice at every play for that last quarter.
One last roll of the dice.
Zach Merritt had 41 disposals, one of the best games I've ever seen him play.
So.
Devon Smith did his tackling thing. Bell Chambers was huge in the ruck.
His tackling thing.
Yeah. But honestly, the standout player for that whole game was Jack Gunston. He absolutely murdered us at every single opportunity. He took 8 marks. He had 24 disposals. He kicked 5 goals. It was like a dominant performance that I have not seen from many other players.
20 kicks and 4 handballs just shows you how.
It was huge.
It was massive.
Mammoth.
I think Gunston probably single-handedly won them that game. If he hadn't been playing, I feel like we would have done significantly better. But yeah, it's a special moment as well for a guy like James Warple, who was still his first year, young kid.
He'll be a good player.
Yeah, he's going to be a star, James.
Oh, it was massive. And then to kick a sealer on the MCG, he's not going to forget that for the rest of his career.
Not bad.
No.
And as much as it was, painful walking out of the G, it was you kind of had that feeling of watching a special game.
Yeah.
It was just unforgettable.
I reckon I know that feeling very, very well because I went to the Adelaide Dogs elimination final 3 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and that was probably one of the most pulsating games of football I've ever watched. And I wasn't even like I was a little bit upset, but I walked out of the MCG that night knowing that was a bloody good game.
It was.
I also just want to point out one more game before we wrap it up.
Yes.
The Easter Monday game between Geelong and Hawthorn.
Yes.
This deserves a mention.
What a good game.
Because I was at this game and I reckon it was going to be a really good game between two genuine rivals. Yeah. And it didn't disappoint because both sides traded the lead and just when you thought Hawthorn were probably going to run away with it, Geelong came back. Hawthorn held them off to win by a point.
It's a massive game.
Oh, and I remember the crowd that day.
Huge game.
It was incredibly pulsating.
Oh yeah. I was at the Easter Monday game as well, actually, and yeah, it was just, back and forth football. You always get good games between these two.
Even Reece Stanley was playing. That's how long ago it was.
He's still playing, mate.
Yes. That's how long ago it
But
was.
but you've
He
got
didn't play. It's
but
all
you got
laid out.
cats like Ryan Burton and Taylor Giray who
Yes.
aren't there anymore.
No longer there.
Ooh, how's that?
And Tim O'Brien.
Timmy, he's still
Oh.
there.
Tim O'Brien was playing.
The Ginger Ninja.
Don't rate Timmy.
I like him.
Nah, don't rate him
Just
out.
don't know where he's playing.
He doesn't know either,
He
mate.
plays at different end each
He
week.
doesn't know either.
Tom Mitchell had 40 possessions.
As
three,
he does.
3 Brownlow votes.
Just quietly.
3 Brownlow votes. Big
Off
boy
the cuff.
McAvoy had 2 Brownlow votes that game too.
Good on him.
That was yeah.
Yeah, you know what? He says it.
Yeah,
Good
he had
on him.
43 hitouts. Dominated Stanley. Had about 16 disposals, 5 marks.
Not bad at all.
Kicked a goal.
All right, we could be here reading the stats all day, or we could wrap up this episode. Thank you for joining us once again on the A3 Footy Podcast. Make sure you check us out on the socials at A3 Footy Podcast on Instagram, the A3 Footy Podcast on Facebook. Stay tuned for next week. We don't know what we're talking about yet. We're not quite up to the draft yet, so we'll have to touch and go.
Find a filler.
Yes.
Yeah, get some content in you. Well, we should
Get
do
some content in here.
we should do my top 50 next week.
Oh yeah, he wants
There
to
you
plug
go.
his top 50.
There you
in.
go. Tune in next week.
Lock it in.
Top 50.
Lock it in. It's already out on the website, so I'll give you guys some time to come up with some notes to criticise what I've selected.
With
Oh,
pleasure.
yes. Lock it in for next week,
Lock it in
lads.
for next week.
My name has been Alex Catalano,
I've been Alex Miller.
I've been Alex Doherty.
and join us back next week for Docker's Top 50.
Yes.